So satsang is a meeting place, yeah? A meeting place in the one heart of being. It's really a meeting with your deepest self. But we gather to see a reflection of that one self. And the words here are really not a teaching or based in knowledge or anything like that. They're really pointers to the truth of being. They're pointers to the one self that is expressed through each of us in so many wonderful manifestations. So listen to the space between the words, because it's in the space that the silence in you can hear the silence of being. So what's being pointed to here is the inner dimension of beingness, the place or space from which all forms arise and into which all forms die. Everything is born and everything arises out of formlessness, out of emptiness. Every single thing that exists, every single person that exists, your body, every thought, every feeling, every positive thought, every negative thought, arises out of emptiness and dies back into emptiness. Every feeling, every nice feeling, every not so nice feeling is born out of the emptiness of being, dimension of formlessness, and disappears back into that unbounded dimension, inner dimension of beingness, emptiness, formlessness. So you could say that nothing is real other than emptiness itself. Everything that is born is destined to die. And when this is truly seen and deeply accepted, there can finally be a resting within that emptiness of being, within the deepest inner dimension, which is where God is, which is where love is. All attempts to find fulfillment, whether that be material fulfillment or spiritual fulfillment, in the world of form, and that world of form includes psychological forms, thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs, all seeking of truth or God or ultimate fulfillment in the world of form is destined to fail. There is no fulfillment in this because all forms are born and all forms die. Forms can be a support. But they are not the ultimate fulfillment. That is what spiritual seeking is really about. fulfillment, true oneness, is found in the deepest dimension of beingness, where there is no form. You could say this is silence, the silence of being. Now, it's all very well saying this, and I'm sure it's been said many times, but to truly realize this, to know it, not through the mind, but in your whole being, to live from silence and as silence, is a whole other thing. Because that which is form, the you, the I, the self, that believes itself to be a form, does everything it can to avoid dissolving into silence. Because in some ways, to the ego, that's a scary place. There's no real ground. It's groundless. It's a free fall into the abyss of beingness. So all attempts to fix anything, to fix yourself, or to fix the world, in the world of form, through the world of form, is bound to fail. Salvation comes when you know yourself. You truly realize and recognize that oneness is your true nature. In other words, there's no inner division. In the deepest dimension of being, there is no inner division. There is no conflict between you and the world. Even if that world looks like horror and suffering. There is no division between you and your feelings. We like nice feelings. We don't like not nice feelings. And as human beings, we experience the full spectrum of the messiness of feelings. We feel through the mechanism of our senses. But we tend to beat ourselves up when those feelings are not so nice. The same with thinking. We divide ourselves from thoughts. We like the nice thoughts, the positive thoughts. We don't like the negative thoughts. But thinking or feeling is not who you are. It is only the ego that identifies itself with thinking and with feeling, because the ego always identifies with a form that creates division. When you truly recognize who you are, beyond and beneath all form, then there is no conflict, there is no need to divide yourself from anything. All forms appear, they're not who you are. And all forms dissolve, disappear. They don't belong to you. You are the wide open space within which all forms come and go. Here is where there is true oneness, true unity, true peace, true Godness. Your capacity to awaken to this realization is what brings liberation from form the suffering of form. It is only the belief that you are form, or that form is the only reality, that creates suffering. So when you have realized true oneness, then you will see the oneness of the world. You will see oneness in everything. You will see oneness even when the world appears to be in conflict. The peace in you, the realization of peace in you, will allow you to see peace amidst the storm. And there's a lot of people these days talking about awakening. Almost everyone I meet has had an awakening experience. That experience of oneness. They call it transcendence, clear seeing, recognition of the true nature of things. But if this awakening is to be more than something that comes and goes, because very often it's a state that opens our mind, opens our heart, opens our eyes, and then very often that state seems to go away again, seems to recede into the background. So if it's to be more than just a state that comes and goes, then the light of that awakeness must penetrate your mind, your heart, and the very fabric of your life. And this means that everything in you that is still divided against the totality of life, as it appears within your experience, everything in you that is divided from the totality of life will come rushing into the light of awakeness in order to be seen and resolved. And when I say resolved, I don't mean resolved through some psychological process, but resolved because it is surrendered into the oneness, the abyss, the emptiness of being. In other words, it is not identified with. You do not create another sense of self out of what appears to be a division. Your likes, your dislikes, your judgments, your rights, your wrongs, and all of that. And to surrender all those inner divisions, the places where the egoic self divides you from another, you from the world, you from anything at all. To surrender all that as it's seen, as it's revealed, is excruciating to the ego. It's like surrendering it to the fire. It burns. It's like in the movie Lord of the Rings, when, I forget his name, what's his name? The Gollum, yes, Smeagol. finally falls into the fire. Yes, Smegma is the embodiment of ego, the egoic mind. It's finally sacrificed to the fire. So this surrender into the deeper dimension of beingness is not always so simple or so easy or so smooth or pleasurable. It's a willingness to give up, to sacrifice all self-identification that props up an idea of who you are as separate from anything at all. And it's right there that the crucifixion happens. All that is false in you is crucified. And out of that crucifixion there's a resurrection. That resurrection is the birth of light. In you, through you, as you. That birth of light is the unboundedness of being that comes when you are willing to walk through all inner landscapes, whether they're dark or light, whether they're hellish or heavenly. When you are willing to walk through all inner landscapes with unfailing presence and unadulterated openness, that's the place where all inner division is resolved into the deeper dimension. That's the crucifixion and resurrection. And as that birth of light arises through you, that's when everything that is not that light, in other words, everything that still lives in separation, comes tumbling in towards that light, like a moth to the flame. And that's where it gets tricky. That's where we'd rather turn away and stop the whole process. That's where you willingly, consciously are invited to surrender over and over and over again, in each moment, in each circumstance, through every aspect of your life, through every relationship of your life, through every interaction with your own thinking and feeling, to see over and over again what is true, what is real. And then awakening becomes not something to be experienced as a spiritual state, or a transcendent state, or even a mystical state. Awakening becomes the very foundation of life as it's experienced by you. It's actually very ordinary. When the light of awakeness has pierced your mind and your heart all the way, and then descends into the body, into the cellular being. There's a great purification of all unholy thoughts. And those unholy thoughts are simply the ones that are still divided from any part of your experience. Because everything that is rejected in you or denied in you, every energy that is rejected or denied has to manifest somewhere else, in someone else, and in the world. That's how we perpetuate the division of the world. First law of thermodynamics: nothing can be created or destroyed. Wow. Let that sink in. Nothing can be created or destroyed. It can only be transmuted, changed from one state to another. So whatever is denied in you, whatever you have suppressed, whatever you don't want to feel, whatever thoughts you push away, whatever energy that is denied, turned away from, contracted from, hidden from, attempted to manipulate, to change, to fix, it doesn't just disappear. It gets reborn in someone else and in the world. And so what was perceived as the darkness in you becomes the darkness of the world. That's how powerful each of us are. So in awakening, in true awakening, you have the capacity to change the world. It's not about you anymore. It's not about your life anymore. You see that you have no life. It doesn't belong to you. There's no such thing as your life. That's a self-centered viewpoint of the egoic mind. There is only life. Life in its totality. In awakening, you have the capacity to change the world. In having the courage and the willingness to meet everything that arises in your experience, which you think has to do with you and your story and your life and your upbringing and your conditioning, and it appears that way, but actually it's something much vaster than that. It serves a much bigger purpose. But in your willingness to meet everything that arises, even if it's excruciating, even if it breaks open your heart, even if it appears to crush you, even if it brings you down to your knees in shame, whatever it is that has been denied, suppressed, turned away from, your willingness to meet that in the blazing light of awareness, awake awareness, which is the same as saying the unboundedness of being that turns away from nothing. It is unafraid to be intimate with the most horrifying experience. Your capacity to meet it in unboundedness, in awakeness, heals everything. Heals the inner division. Because everything is resolved in this. Everything dies back into unboundedness. In other words, it returns to source. And in the deepest acceptance, it dies back in acceptance, which is the same as love. If it dies back into love, it is reborn as love. In you, through you, and in the world. The world is healed in this way. So awakening is not for the self. It's not a selfish act or a selfish desire. It's in service to the totality. And then the oneness in you, that which we might call unconditioned love. Not a love that is conditional on anything, doesn't need anything, it doesn't want anything, doesn't hold on to anything, doesn't divide love from not love, but unconditioned love. The unconditioned love in you as the unboundedness of awakeness is able to see the love in everything. The heart of you meets the heart of reality. The love in you sees the love in both the sinner and the saint. In the jewel of gold and in the speck of dirt on the floor. Everything is included. There is no division. Now, of course, the human experience still has likes and dislikes, preferences. All of this still happens on the surface. All of this is part of the human experience. We don't turn into these angels where we float around in a kind of bubble of bliss, doing good things, being very spiritual. We still have our human experience. But all this happens on the surface. And when it happens on the surface, it's as if it recedes into the background. It's like the little waves on the surface of the sea. But who you are and where you are rested in is the ocean of beingness. In other words, you are not lost in identification with each of those little waves. Yeah? The waves have a duality to them. Good, bad, right, wrong, like, dislike, pleasurable, painful. But when you are truly rested in the ocean of beingness, some of these waves may arise. It's the nature of the ocean. It's the nature of the human experience. But you are not lost in that wave. You are not identified with that wave. In other words, you give no mind to it. So in that sense, it recedes into the background. And then you live from the ocean of beingness. You live from the ocean of beingness. And that's where true fulfillment is. Because in this ocean of beingness, there is no duality. There is only oneness. That's what is meant when you may have heard about non-dual awareness. But everything is included in that. Yeah, it doesn't deny the human experience. It doesn't deny the duality. It simply sees that there is a deeper dimension of beingness than the surface duality. And when that awakening is complete, in other words, it has descended from a mental realization to the piercing of the heart, right through into the body and the very visceral experience of everyday life, then the vaster dimension of non-dual awakeness is what you live from and move from. And another way of saying that is that you live from silence as silence. And everything that you think you are everything that you have been conditioned to think you are is seen to be just a wave within the vastness of that non-dual ocean of being. And nothing can rock you, even if the whole world falls apart. Even if your whole world falls apart. And a storm rages on the surface of that ocean. At the same time, there is the deepest knowingness that nothing can be rocked. It's not another separation, it's not another division between that which appears on the surface as painful or challenging and this ocean of beingness where everything is one. It's not another division. That's where it gets tricky, because the mind will attempt to divide that as well. And then there is a subtle denial of the pain of human existence. The loss, the tragedy, the challenges, the powerful emotions that may come. They're not to be denied, they're to be opened even wider to. Because it's in that opening even wider to that which appears in your experience that allows this deeper dimension to be the groundless ground which is your true support, fulfillment, home. Because at the moment of death, when you die, which inevitably you will, as each of us will, at the moment of death, that's the invitation. That's the invitation. Because that which is held onto as who you are, the body, and everything that comes with the body, the whole mind-body vehicle, the whole psychological sense of self, all that will dissolve. And if you know that the groundless ground is your true home, then that surrender of form can be so sweet. And surely the whole of life is a preparation for that. So our willingness to die in each moment, our willingness to see that everything dies, whatever thought is arising now, whatever feeling is arising now, whatever belief system, whatever structure within you is arising now, it is possibly dying. At some point, it dies, and then another one rises. And so does the form, it just takes a little longer, the physical form. So the birth of light within you is radical. It's radical because it changes everything. It changes your whole relationship to life itself. It brings you to an unconditional relationship to life. Unconditional. To deep intimacy with what is. Deep intimacy. Such a deep intimacy that there is no separation between you and what is. In other words, the totality of life comes pouring into you. You are the vehicle or the vessel through which everything pours. So nothing is denied. How can life deny itself? It's essentially, in awakening, you don't exist. You don't exist. You and your life are seen to be a figment of the imagination. Life is simply lifing itself through you, and you, as this form, have senses, and those senses are the mechanism through which it experiences this lifing. And then some part of the self that has evolved over time, with what we call ego, claims that lifing and says, this is my life. And I don't like it, so I'm going to fix it and change it. Or I do like it, so I'm going to hold on to it and make it a big deal and tell everyone about it. Neither of those are the truth, and neither of those bring fulfillment. Only the deepest realization that you do not exist, that your life is a figment of your imagination, allows life to life itself through you, so that you become a permeable vessel through which the totality experiences itself. And this sounds both extraordinary, and it is. Because it goes against the millennia of fight and flight survival mechanism that has created this psychological ego. And yet it is so ordinary, because when it is truly seen and lived, it cannot be any other way. Everything else is seen to have been like a dream. And it's known through your very everyday experience that this, what was thought of as an extraordinary state of being, is actually your natural birthright as an awake human being. Everything else has been an erroneous thought. So what was an unholy mind becomes a healed mind, a whole mind. And the whole mind sees not through the eyes of separation, but through the eyes of God. The God in you sees the God in everything. Everything Not just some things that are worthy of God, but everything, even that which is deemed to be unworthy of God. That's what's so extraordinary, to live that. And to be ruthlessly honest with yourself when there is a divided perception that's not of self-punishment. It's the allegiance to truth. If you're concerned with protecting yourself from so-called self-punishment, then truth cannot be revealed. Your allegiance to truth, even when it hurts, because it apparently damages or shocks your idea of yourself as a nice person or a spiritual person. Your allegiance to truth, when that comes first, has the power to heal everything and to change everything from the inside out. So usually in satsang, not always, there is time for inquiry, in other words, questions. And the questions really are not questions of gaining more knowledge, but really they're confessions, if you like, simply reporting honestly about what stands in the way of that light. But this evening, we're going to stop right there and simply rest in the silence, allowing any questions that might arise in you to simply be seen in you. And if what you see is still a division, or something that's been denied or suppressed, or wants to be turned away from, or changed or fixed, to simply for a moment just let it be. Just let it be. Be openness. Be unboundedness. Be emptiness. Be silence. Allow awareness, that in you which is aware, to simply fall into itself. Let awareness rest in awareness, that rather than awareness sticking to what you're thinking or feeling. Let awareness rest in itself. This allows the vertical fall into beingness. That's the purpose of satsang. That only you can be honest with yourself about what is seen and what you're willing to sacrifice into that seeing. Okay. Namaste.
you see who you are, when you see your face, when you know you smile, when you love the place. What I love to see, and I can see a way when the man looks back. I just love to say, love deep. Love deep. When the man disappeared, when the face disappears, and only love remains, only love remains, and the world disappears, and the moon is clear, and I see who you are, and I know who you are. We love deep, love deep.